Hey guys, happy Easter. So I am out on my deck this morning and I'm just out here watering right now. I feel like I'm in this kind of waiting game at the moment because I got a whole bunch of stuff that I need to do, but it's just not quite warm enough to do it yet. Like it's getting there, but it's not quite there yet, and I'm still waiting. Like I said in my other video recently, I'm still waiting on live plants to get delivered, and I'm just not there yet. Just not there yet. So I'm out here watering this morning trying to plan, and I've got a bunch of stuff that I know that I need to do, but I just can't get to it. So I'm just kind of doing small projects here and there. But let me turn the camera around and show you kind of what I've got in mind. So there are the lilacs, and this is really what I'm waiting on. So I want to do my direct sowing, but I can't do anything yet until these babies break bud. The reason why is because this is my indicator every year that it is actually warm enough for my containers to be able to handle direct sowing. Normally you would go by, when you're working in a standard garden, normally you would go by what the ground temperature is, but when you work in containers, then your temperature is a little bit of an adjustment because you don't have that kind of radiant heat from the earth. So you're working with a little bit of a cooler temperature overnight than what you would have in the ground, because the ground is going to regulate itself a little bit more. You're working with more air surrounding that container, and they just adjust a little bit more overnight. They're a little bit more susceptible to the changes. So every year I always pay attention to what are my lilacs doing. This is another really great reason to keep a flowering bush in a container, because they'll kind of tell you when they're ready. These won't actually burst forth and bloom until they're actually warm enough in the root system to do it, and they've got enough nutrients and everything else. So this is another reason why I also take really, really good care of them, because they kind of just tell me about the health of the rest of my garden. So I've got everything else out here. Bella's out here sniffing and everything. She is actually really helpful if you deal with squirrels out on your patio gardens or deck gardens or anything else. They don't like the smell of other larger kind of predator animals. So if you have a cat or another puppy, kind of like mine, there she is, she's so cute, they'll actually kind of help deter the squirrels. So sometimes having, if you groom your dog or your cat or something, and you can lace your pots with those, with that leftover hair, then that's another good way to keep your squirrels away. I don't ever have enough from her because I keep her groomed so short in the summer to actually get a benefit from that. But when I've had some and I have a squirrel that just keeps returning to a specific pot, then I've done that. So I've got my phlox and herbs mini bed that's doing really well. Actually, it's starting to put on new growth in the rosemary, and the sage is really starting to spread. This is putting on a lot of new growth down here at the bottom, and the phlox is starting to spread out too. The buds are starting to get a little bit spent in certain areas, but it is starting to spread out and spill over a little bit more, which is really nice. So, and one thing that was really kind of a nice surprise coming out here this morning was my hostas are starting to bloom. Or they're starting to kind of open up and green up and whatnot. So I'm really excited about that. That was a really nice special surprise this morning. So what I've got out here, my plan is I'm going to keep my garden benches are going to have flowers across the top. I know it looks kind of sparse and scary right now. I've got a bunch of things in here that still need cleaned out. That was lemongrass from last year. I don't think it's going to come back. It just got too cold, and I've dug down into that cut back, and it's just, there's nothing new coming out of there, and I would have expected it by now. So I don't think it's going to. It's not a frost-free pot, so it is what it is. Sometimes it happens. We had a really hard winter. We got some volunteer herbs in this from last year, but I don't know that it's going to come back up. I was hoping, this is lavender, so it might. I've got some little sprouts in there. I'm giving it a little bit more time to see if it really kind of comes back, but this container is really kind of breaking, and so is the other one, so I was going to replace it anyway. But This is going to be all, these benches are going to be all lined with flowers. That is a hydrangea. I don't remember the variety. I know it's a pink hydrangea. It just continues to keep biting. For some reason, that little tiny pot, it just kind of gets tucked up next to a bunch of big pots every winter, and it's stayed out here for like 3 or 4 years now, and it just keeps trucking along. It's a tough little plant. That is a barberry, and it has really sweet little leaves on it. If I like zoom in on it, I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm sorry, it's kind of blurry. There you go. It got really sweet little leaves when it starts to open up, and it's bright green, bright green, but I put it on the end to kind of keep the squirrels away from things if I've got a plant that they keep coming back and kind of fussing with. And then there's my buckets. I bucket garden. That's going to be all tomatoes and peppers because the cages fit in them really, really nicely. I've got just some pot bases in that cage right there. The movement kind of helps keep some squirrels away, and birds too from coming out here for some reason. They don't really like it. And then I've just got some big pots out here. This had watermelons in it last year, and then when the watermelons died out and were spent, then I put in some fall things, and they've all kind of peeled back, just some fall annuals, and they're done for the year. So that had peppers in it last year. I thought that they might have, you know, kind of volunteered to come back because they were just tucked up so close to the house, but they're gone. They're not coming back anymore. They're spent. So my plan is that I'm going to put maybe peppers in that, or probably something else that's climbing this year. I'm thinking actually I might do a cucumber in that. That's going to be marigolds. I thought that'd be really pretty, just a bright pop of yellow right there. And then this is going to be cucamelons once I get it seeded. And then I've got out here a couple of things. There's my daisies from the other day that I bought. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with those yet. They're going to go in an arrangement of some kind. I just haven't figured it out. And then this is my swartzberries. They're out here getting hardened off. This particular part where they're sitting gets pretty shady. It gets a little bit of sun, but I thought that the stems on them are a little bit soft, so they'll get a little bit of a breeze right there, and they'll still be protected. So, and the squirrels won't really mess with them back there. They're too close to the house, so they'll get a little bit more strength back there. And then this is a Weigela bush. I'm not sure. It was green when I cut it to see if it was still alive. I had to cut it back because it was just so big, and I just couldn't even get around out here earlier this spring. So it is alive. It's still got pliable wood on it. It's still got green under it. And the one thing that I know about Weigelias is that they are always the last thing, the very last thing to come back every year. So we'll see how she does. Her name is Winnie. I always name my plants. It helps me remember to take care of them. But if she doesn't come back this year, she was at the very end, and she's big, she's pretty, and you know what? I can use the pot for something else, and we'll wish her well and say thank you for serving us and giving us beautiful flowers for a few years. But anyway, that's kind of the tour right now. You can see in there I still have the pop-up greenhouse going, mostly because I'm hardening off plants. I kind of pick it up and move it around in the house. I know it's kind of ridiculous because it's enormous and my house is not very big, but I've got all my tomatoes and peppers right there. I've got peas, and I've got herbs, and I've got some seed starts in there, and a bunch of other things the further back that it goes. But it works really well to keep the dog out because she doesn't really get underneath of there and mess around, and it's really nice and helpful. But the way that I kind of harden off seedlings is I put them as close to the door as possible, and a sunny door, and then I keep the screen open, so then that way they get all the same air, and then they get used to the sunlight in kind of just a little bit of a shielded way, and then they get some wind, and that way they kind of start to get used to it before they actually come out and they get full-on sun. So that's how I do it. It seems to work every year for me. And then they'll get they'll get put out on a shady day, a cloudy day for the whole day, and then they'll kind of start to spend the whole time out here. So it's a little bit faster process once they're outside. I don't have to keep coming in and out and keep pulling them in and out over and over, because that's annoying to me. So there's kind of a mini tour today of what my plans are for the garden. I've got my trellis set up, which I'm really excited about. Every time I come home and I see this thing, I am just excited to see something growing on it. I think that the cucamelons will be really, really fun. I thought about doing black-eyed Susan vine, but I didn't want to do a perennial because I know that I'm intending on moving, and I would be so sad to cut it down and then maybe lose it and then have to, you know, deal with the sadness of losing it. So we're gonna do just an annual melon, and I thought that would be kind of fun and, you know, give me something to look forward to. Plus it's kind of fun because you get the flowers and then you get the fruit and all that. So anyway, that's what the deal is right now. But I think I'm gonna take Miss Bella to the park, and gonna go spend some time with my family for Easter. So I hope you all have a wonderful Easter, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.